Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Refuge from Narcissism, and this refugee video is sponsored by contribution from Vincent, and Vincent just sent in some sponsorships. This one, just do whatever I wanted, and this popped across my Twitter feed, and this is an article in American Greatness written by Julie Kelly. And if you guys don't follow Julie Kelly on social media, follow her. She's one of the few people who's telling the truth about January 6th and telling the truth about, what's going on in the justice system. And she's a true warrior for Generation X. And, this is something, what she's talking about here is what I have been talking about, how Gen X pushed was the reason Trump won. Like, how our generation has been used and abused, and all of this pushback against societal narcissism, against cultural Marxism and communism is the forefront of it is Gen X is leading the charge. Without credit, at the same time, we're the generation that has been ignored and blamed, infantilized, and not allowed to grow up. And we've had it. So let's get into this article. Gen X to Democrats, eat my shorts. We want an America that's fun, happy, and free, the country we grew up in and that we crave for our children. Some social media blue checks had a bit of a temper tantrum this week following the release of a New York Times poll that showed overwhelming support for Republicans among Gen X voters. The poll broke down the results by the respondents' ages, and while the category encompassing Gen X also technically included some younger baby boomers, it captured most of the so-called slacker generation. According to the survey, Gen Xers, those born between 1965 and 1980, now prefer a Republican candidate to a Democrat candidate 59% to 38%, a huge gap unmatched by other age groups. Boomers, the next closest group, split at 48% each. That, in politics, that type of gap, it's beyond huge. It's insurmountable. It's amazing. And this has been my point, Gen X. This is why, because this is how we've been thinking. These are what is going on now, and what Trump did and what Trump exposed, okay, said out loud what we all were thinking and thought we were crazy for thinking. That's just what it is. Because we grew up different. We grew up and we understood there was something wrong with our parents. There was something wrong with the boomers. With this frustration of being infantilized and not being able to grow up at the same time. Having to be an adult as a child, but not being able to actually be a child and then grow up. And then blamed and looked down upon. Why couldn't you do this? Why can't you do that? We did this. By your age, we had this. We've heard it. We've been through it. Told you, this is why Trump won in 2016. That wasn't the only bad news for Democrats. 56% of Gen Xers strongly disapprove of Joe Biden's job performance, a percentage 9 points higher than the disapproval of baby boomers and 20 points higher than that of millennials. Donald Trump has the highest approval rating and lowest unfavorable rating among Gen X voters. 42% of my generation describe Democrats as a threat to democracy. 50% say the same about Biden because we see through it. And this is why Gen X, all our lives, they've ignored us. They try to push us to the side. They're like our heroes. They try to tear them down because for their heroes have to stay. This is it. And this is Trump finally pulled the mask off and like, oh, we're not fucking crazy. And now that the mask is off and we can still see these boomers in charge, what they're doing, the demonic shit they're doing, the schemes they're pulling to hold on, to claw on to fucking power, and the hell with the rest of us. The Times poll isn't an outlier. A whopping 64% of Gen Xers disapprove of Biden, 8 points higher than the next closest age group. The Boomers, according to a Morning Consult survey conducted earlier this month. Gen Xers are most likely to believe the country is on the wrong track, plan to vote Republican next month, think coronavirus hysteria is a bigger threat to the economy than to public health, disapprove of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and approve of Trump. The new CBS News poll shows Biden with a 51% strongly disapprove rating and Republicans with a 7-point advantage over Democrat among Gen Xers. 56% describe the Democrat Party as extreme because we see it for what it is. I told you, if this is going to be fixed, our generation is the one that has to step up and do it. Because we can work in lockstep. We all, for the most part, think the same. 60%. That's huge. It's time to get your parents out of your lives. Not permanent, like not if you're on my channel following Narcissism, yeah, you need to actually get them out of your lives. But at some point, most of you need to tell your parents to fuck off. Retire. Give me the keys. Sit down. Shut up. In other words, we're millions of Johnny Benders living in a world run by Richard Vernons. We have a message for the Biden regime. Eat my shorts. You want another one? Yes. Great movie. No. Yeah, such a great movie. But there's nothing really new in these responses. In fact, a 2014 Columbia University paper analyzing the voting habits of 5 generations of white Americans dating back to 1885 shows Gen X as the most reliably Republican generation in history. These born in the mid to late 60s are the most Republican of all. Partisan leanings, the researchers observed, are formed between ages of 14 to 24. Because look, I was born in 72. I'm going to be 50 next month. Holy shit. And, my formative years, when my young years from, 6, 7, 8, 9, it might even be before that. I might have but I remember the gas lines of the 70s, the gas crisis. I remember back when kids, you could stand up in the back seat, okay, behind the driver, and just stand up and watch over the seat. And I remember sitting online on Route 17, okay, with my father to get into the Merit station to buy $7 worth of gas on even odd days. Yeah, it was crazy. Every day you're seeing an American flag burned. The crime was out of control. Shit was burning. And everybody knew Carter was an asshole. Carter sucked. This is the worst president we ever had in our lives. Okay. And then what happens? Reagan wins and the 80s just zoom. So all we had 8 years and 8 of our formative years after seeing how fucked up the country was under Democrat control, under Carter, how fucked up. I mean, it was fucked up. It was bad. It was fucked. And have Reagan step in and have 8 years. And back then, 8 years felt like a lifetime, from, so wait, Reagan won, I was in 3rd grade. So I was like 8 or 9. So yeah, Reagan was president from 8 to 16. So that's formative years. of competency, of not getting into any wars, okay? Of shit getting fixed and, you know, getting away, our hostages coming home from Iran. We understood it. We saw it. And then we saw the cities get cleaned up under Giuliani, or another Republican, because it was so out of hand under David Dinkins going to the bedside of criminals who shot cops. He would go, the mayor of New York, David Dinkins, would go to the criminals' bedside. It was out of control. It was fucked up. And then Giuliani came in Pataki in New York, and they cleaned up New York, and they got the fucking crime, and that's what we've seen in our formative years. And that happened in our late teens, early 20s. So when we see Republicans, like, yeah, they're the ones who got the shit cleaned up for the better. For those in Gen X, the years that have shaped us transpired at the height of the Reagan Revolution, okay? Their political socialization seems to have started with just what I said. See, I haven't read this far into it. Their political socialization seems to have started with President Carter. By the time he left office, an energy crisis, stagflation, the Iran hostage crisis, among other events, had left him in a 30 to 40% range. Right. I didn't read this far into this. This led into President Reagan's campaign and his optimistic vision of America as a shining city on the hill. The recovery hit full swing shortly thereafter, and Reagan, whose campaign famously declared that it was morning in America again, that's right, that was the term, morning in America, was reelected in a landslide, winning 49 of 50 states. Yeah, that was an ass kicking. He only won, Dukakis only won, was it Dukakis? No, that was Bush. Mondale, he only won fucking Minnesota, his home state. What an ass kicking that was. This powerful imagery and the apparent overwhelming support of the American people no doubt had a powerful impact on the young cohort who, 16 years old at the time, were squarely in the middle of their peak years of political socialization. Man, me and her are on the same wavelength. During our politically formative years, we watched the fall of the Iron Curtain, the end of the Cold War, the rise of the digital age, and the collapse of the economy, just as we graduated from college. I've made that point several times. Soon as we're hitting the workforce, everything starts going to shit. All the boomers' sins are now catching up to us. All their sins are catching up to us. Politics, however, only partially shaped our views. Gen X culture was much about having fun as it was about fighting the establishment. If we're going to fight, it was our right to party. Comedians were crude, crass, and did not hesitate to hurt anyone's feelings. Think Andrew Dice Clay and Eddie Murphy. Our music was loud and in your face, and our movies usually ended with America as the good guy. Hair was big, colors were bold, and we were eager to live. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to add something else here, okay? That I had this discussion with some people. I'm going to stop shaming people or telling people to stop smoking cigarettes, okay? Because let me ask you this. Are we a better or worse society? Are we a better or worse country, or a better or worse culture since we told people what they can and can't do smoking cigarettes? You know, nicotine has a lot of positive benefits. I'm not going back to smoking cigarettes because I don't want to die. I know it'll end up killing you. But when you lived in a time, and when you lived in a time where you could smoke everywhere, you could smoke at your job, okay? You're smoking, you're working, you're productive, you're focused, okay? You got what you need. Now you got people going through nicotine fits, okay? Going out having to sneak a cigarette in freezing cold weather. No wonder people are miserable. No wonder. It's part of the misery. You watch shows like Mad Men, they're smoking everywhere. That's the way it used to be. I remember when my parents had their parties with their friends before, shit would go to shit. Everybody was smoking cigarettes indoors. It was just a cloud of fucking smoke. You didn't smell it. You don't realize because everybody was smoking. Whenever they tell you that they're doing something for your own good, it never actually ends up being for your own good. It always ends up being detrimental, even if something as dangerous as smoking cigarettes. Which brings us to Donald Trump. Right. Trump came out. And it brings us to Trump. Another person who fits in perfectly to the point we're making about Carter and Reagan and everything going on. In drops in this dude, this young rich guy, Donald J. Trump. Okay, this billionaire playboy buying real estate, getting shit done. Everybody's talking to him back then about becoming the next president. We grew up on him. We were told to love him until he ran for the wrong party at the wrong time. Then all of a sudden, but everything he did, he does now, he was doing then. And the media couldn't get enough of it. We were raised on his style too. His Art of the Deal was released in 1987 when older Gen Xers were attending college. His brash braggadocio doesn't bother us, for the most part because we're used to it. Trump inspired the business careers of an untold number of Gen Xers who, despite the slacker label, always had plenty of ambition. And 30 years later, Trump did us another favor. He yanked back the curtain on the failed policies and institutions fueling the slow decay of the country we love. Democracy building wars we originally supported were shown to be costly and deadly disasters with no one held accountable. International trade deals had hollowed out large swaths of the middle class, especially in the heartland, while enriching other hostile regimes. The promises of diversity led to unchecked immigration and cultural relativism. Compassionate conservatism was instead a blank check. Right, they played on us. They played on us. In 9/11, I said this, I made the video on this past 9/11. 9/11 fucked Gen X so hard, so bad with all these foreign wars and all this fun. They scared the shit out of everybody. And now we got nothing but fucking endless war for dictatorial regimes that hate us anyway, trying to spread democracy to people that don't want it, don't know what to do with it if they had it, and when they got a taste of it, rejected it. We're done. Because we've known for so long that these people are full of shit, but we're just meant to feel like we were fucking crazy, like we were the only ones who had these thoughts. We didn't even know between each other we shared these thoughts. And you still don't hear any of these politicians talking about Generation X. Never brought up. And now you got these guys like J.D. Vance, who's one of us. Okay, Rubio's one of us. This is supposed to be the most consequential election again. It is. But again, we're still being ignored. We're still being, because nobody, not DeSantis. Like, I wish I tweeted Christina Pusha all the time. He needs to start talking to Generation X directly, like they talk to the boomers and the millennials and every other fucking generation. Not us, not even our own politicians. Because there's still most of them are politicians having their chains yanked by the boomer politicians. Trade one daddy running their lives for another. Then our government was turned on us, weaponizing powerful agencies such as the Department of Justice, the FBI, the National Security State against political foes of the establishment. When Trump said, "They're not after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way," we believed him. That's only partly why Politico recently declared Gen X the Trumpiest generation. First, they were latchkey kids, and then they were slackers, but now they're Republicans, Ben Jacobs wrote in 2022. Meanwhile, the Democrat Party went insane. Democrats scare the shit out of us, and not in a good way. It's not just that Joe Biden is a pathological liar, a self-aggrandizing fraud, and a reckless leader, but he and his fellow Democrats are full-blown Marxists, embracing radical and dehumanizing policies that few saw coming even 5 years ago. And these twisted perverts are coming for our kids. We're not going to take it anymore. But perhaps no adult life event was more clarifying to Gen X than government-forced lockdowns. The evil nature of the ruling class was on full display as they revealed themselves to be cruel, even sadistic, in their lust control rather than, as they claimed, having the best interests of the children at heart. And I correlate that right back to smoking. It's for everybody's for the best interests of you, your health, society. Is it? Is it really? They got you. They started it at smoking bans, and they ended up locking everybody down in 2022. You give up your freedoms, they're just going to take more. And we're a generation that did. We grew up on right and that there is a difference between right and wrong. As fucked up as our parents' generation was, we still had a right and wrong, and at the end, the bad guy is gonna get theirs. That's where this farcical Q shit came from. This thought that there is some mysterious white hat that could step in and say, all right, enough of this. No, you're too far. And it didn't exist. It never existed. That was that childlike thinking of Generation X, thinking that there's some hero out there that's going to come save the day. No, it's got to be us. It's got to be us. Our kids lost irretrievably some of the most important years and milestones of their lives without an ounce of regret from those responsible. The torment continues. Vaccine mandates, mask requirements, the threats of future lockdowns still hover over the youngest generation. Gen Xers are asking themselves if all this happened when we were in high school and college, would we have allowed it, or would we have fought like hell against it? After all, the author of our generation's anthem, Dee Snider, turned on us, backing vaccine passports and denouncing Trump. He is, of course, a boomer. I was going to be mine, like, he's not Gen X. He's a boomer. But they'll always turn on you. It's got to be us, Gen X. It's got to be us. I'm pretty sure we would have fought like hell. Our shining city on the hill is gone, and we want it back. We demand America that's fun, happy, and free, the country we grew up in and that we crave for our children. For now, Joe Biden and the Democrats are in our way. But to parse Judas Priest, if they think we'll just sit around as the world goes by, they got another thing coming, and it starts in November. If it's going to change, Gen X, it's got to be us. Follow Julie Kelly on, she's got great stuff, and she gets it. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thank you to Vincent for sponsoring. And if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this to someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Refuge from Narcissism. Take care, everyone.